Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Today's episode is incredibly meaningful to me because the day we are recording the podcast, today marks my third anniversary of surviving my first of two cardiac arrests back in May of 2023. So, my family and I, we have Juliana, we have Connie, and we have Tyler. We thought it would be great that we do a podcast and they're going to ask me some questions.
In this space, we talk about real and often unspoken side of mental health, resilience, fear, growth, and what life looks like after such a life-changing experience. If this topic feels close to home for you, just know you're not alone here.
My name is Rob Kalmowitz, and on May 7th, 2023, I had sudden cardiac arrest at my home. Lucky enough, I had CPR performed on me, and I was brought back to life by a shock from an AED unit that was brought by the police. Then on May 18th, 2023, while I was in the hospital, I had another cardiac arrest, but I was saved. I received CPR and a shock also, and I came back. I was diagnosed with coronary artery disease and cardiac sarcoidosis, which have both been dealt with.
How did this experience affect your mental health in the days, weeks, or months after?
My mental health was a major issue to me. After being released from the hospital, lucky enough, the day of release, you asked to speak to a psychiatric department because I was having a lot of anxiety issues. And that started me on my path of working on my mental health. Originally, in the few days after, I didn't really think I had any issues. But then as I started having anxiety and panic attacks at the home, then I needed to start treating my mental health. I worked on with a counselor for about a year, but then I also did a lot of other things that we'll be talking about today.
Were there moments that felt especially overwhelming or difficult to process?
Yes, in the beginning, I had some issues with panic, with fear, and most of it resolved around my heart rate. Whenever my heart rate went high, I went into a panic and felt, fear as that the cardiac arrest would happen again. So that was happened a lot during being at home, as well as one time we were at the vet to take our dog for a visit, and just being in an enclosed place and then having a lot of tension and just dealing with the dog, and it just created a major panic situation for me, and I had a panic attack and I had to get out of there. Those were most likely a couple of my hardest moments.
One of the questions I got for you is, did you explore any type of therapy? Did you reach out to any type of support groups, holistic practices, or any type of faith?
Yeah, actually, I did them all. I mean, therapy, I was lucky enough to have a therapist available. I met with one that didn't work out, and I met with another one for a few weeks. And then I finally found my therapist that I worked with for about a year. Doing support groups, most of it came out of Facebook. Facebook, there's a lot of support groups, and for people that survive cardiac arrest, such as sudden cardiac arrest survivors. There's a group about with ICD. There's also a group that I created that it's named Sudden Cardiac Arrest Mental Health Awareness. So a lot of these groups are really helpful, and I'm glad that I found them. Faith for me became belief. Came with a saying that basically faith over fear. My faith, my belief in the medicine, in what I was doing, in my doctors, made me get over fear. And my holistic practice was basically and it still is today, is just eating properly, taking good medicines, such as vitamins, and doing like deep breathing has really helped.
Now, were there specific coping tools, routines, or support that made a difference?
Yeah, I think one of my biggest, I call it like, is basically just doing deep breathing. That is one of my biggest tools I use in my toolbox, I call it. That is really helpful. Sometimes I'll do a box breathing for like 4 count, 4 count, 4 count. Or there's also like I try to do would be just to change my mindset, would just be stepping back, taking a deep breath, not reacting. Or another one is I try to put myself in a calm place. And when working with my therapist, my calm place, became the beach. Doing routines, it's really important to get proper sleep. It really helps the body for anybody, not just a sudden cardiac arrest survivor. And having made great family support has been really helpful. Um, Lucky that we have, our close knit support and love and appreciation for each other. And, having you guys is a major reason why I was able to survive and live a new and improved life.
How has your perspective on life changed since this experience?
It's a great question because, you know, life prior was great, but this is a new perspective on life, and knowing how life is precious and short that can be, that just learned a lot of things that other people do not get the opportunity unless you go through something like this. And how is it better? It's better, first off, because I'm alive and I'm here with my family, but I've learned to live a different life, and I believe it's a better life.
Okay. Well, for next question, do you feel like you have like a different version of yourself now rather than before your cardiac arrest?
Yeah, it's something that someone was just talking about, that the person before was a little more quick to respond and could be a little more emotional and not as understanding. But after going through this experience and learning things in which that helped me, that I've changed myself and my perspective on things in life, and of course having appreciation.
Okay. Do you still experience fear or worry about the future? And how do you manage those thoughts and feelings?
Uh, Worry, yes, but not as much as I used to. That would be one of the things I would call like one of my fears would come up to me and go, "Hey, Rob, that's just a what if moment." And there's a lot of what ifs in this world, but if you believe all these what ifs that are going to happen, it's going to really just mess with your mind. So, like, being confident, and I would just be like, "Oh, there goes my heart rate." And then instead of worrying about it, I would say, "Oh, that's a what if, Rob. Put it away." Um, Fear, there's always some type of fear that, hey, Rob, you have, coronary artery disease, even though I'm taking care of myself. But this is an issue I have, and I have to make sure I take care of myself because something could happen again in the future. But if you want to put it from a 1 through a 10 in the beginning, of the summer of 2023, I had fear all the time, and it was like a 9 or a 10. On the most part, on a date like today, it's 2026. Fear not too often. Uh, So it's gotten much better.
Have you found any meaning or growth through this experience?
Yeah, I mean, meaning first off is, so important, you three are with me. Um, this is one of the reasons I feel like I fought to stay alive and to be with you guys and us, be in our family unit. Family is immensely important to me and all of you, and I know it and I feel it. uh, just by doing this as a group together is so impactful, and hopefully others understand and have that opportunity to have family or friends, some type of support, because this is one of the things that really make me get through it. um, Strength, in the beginning there was no strength. I was a fearful person. I did not want to leave my house. My house was my safety home spot. uh, when something bad happened, all I wanted to do was just crawl up in my bed and hide. So as time went along, by doing different things such as like exposure therapy with all of you, such going to the store, going to the lake, going to the gym. By me going there in the beginning, all I wanted to do was get out of there and get back to that safety spot of the house. But as more and more going to there and being exposed to places and learning nothing bad's going to happen and things like that, I've gained strength, and I feel I almost got back to the person I was prior, as being in confidence levels. But there's always that thought, as I talked about before, there's still a small grain of fear that doesn't give me 100% confident, but I'm much better than I was back, a few years ago.
Hmm. And then, did this journey teach you anything about resilience or strength? And if so, can you elaborate on that?
Well, I think I just was talking about some of that. It's one of the hardest things to go through. You are all involved in saving your father and your husband's life. I think we all learned huge amount of resilience and strength just by doing that, and then supporting me while I was in the hospital. And then when I came home for a few days prior to going back in the hospital, uh, it's very difficult times. I mean, you were all still doing life, and at the same time, you your father or husband is fighting for their life. Then coming home, it was a long hill. I mean, it was very difficult to deal with, uh, being scared. Uh, Mentally, it was a major challenge, but physically as well, it was a major challenge. I couldn't walk more than a few minutes without being exhausted. And then I just made a goal to walk a few minutes more every day until I got up to 60 minutes. And I did it in a month. So it was just learning to be, that I could do things that I'd done prior. Uh, it was major help, and it's like a stepping stone. It's just like climbing to the top of the stairs. You just do one step at a time, and even if you go backwards, just keep trying to go up those ladder and you'll get there.
Okay, what advice would you give to other family members trying to support a loved one?
Well, it's funny coming from my family getting this question, but it's just again, trying to be supportive and understanding is most likely such very, very important, because sometimes when you're dealing with mental health, you're not sure what's going on in someone's head. And when you're dealing with someone that has PTSD and hasn't been treated yet, you're not understanding maybe what's going on and why. So just be open and understanding, and sometimes give space, but more give support and a hug and a kind word and sitting next to the person during quiet time. It's just very impactful and something I'll never forget.
Is there any kind of support you wish you had earlier?
Yeah, more support from the medical staff. Unfortunately, when I left the hospital for the final time, I received 3 pieces of paper, and one was when my appointment was for the cardiologist, one was about my medication, and one was to have a low salt diet. That was it. Unfortunately, nothing to deal with maybe getting cardiac rehab, which maybe not all sudden cardiac arrest patients do not get, but I think is needed, as well as nothing about dealing with the mental health and getting diagnosed with PTSD. If those things happened earlier and was addressed, maybe I would have been on a different path. But at the end of the day, it was all learning and we got through it and we're getting through it. And that's the most important thing.
Then, for my final and last question, what is one thing that brings you peace, and what is one thing that helps you to be grounded, on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I try to do meditation on a daily basis. I do follow one on an Apple podcast. His name's Martin Hewlett, I think. I do share it, his podcast in the Facebook group. And that just tries, like I try to do in the beginning of the day, and that just tries to set my day to be calm. And sometimes, I'll even listen to it during the afternoon if it's been a hard day. Uh, that's helpful. But from an inside uh, connection with the family, it's just that, having discussions and, explaining what's going on in life, think is just helpful just to talk about things.
And then is there anything else you would like to share with us besides like the questions we asked? Is there anything else?
Well, I'm going to turn it back to you guys, and I'll become now the interviewer again for a moment or two. But what would you, we'll start with Connie, like to share?
Put me on the spot here.
All right, then we'll start with Jules.
I think it's important to, within the support of a family member or and yourself, is say for me, my perspective is I'm a big talker, so talking to other people, asking questions, but it's also important to know your loved one or friend, whoever it is. If there's someone that's really not a talker, they don't really like to share their emotions, maybe they're not ready, so don't pressure them either. That would be like my main advice. And then my takeaway from this situation is to see the good in everything. Um, I used to have more of an outlook of like the worst can happen and oh well. But now I have more of an outlook of like see the good in everything and just try to have a good outlook on life and wake up happy, go to bed happy.
Positivity. Great
Yeah,
answer.
I
What
agree
do you
with
think,
all of
Connie?
that. I agree with that all.
You got
You
anything to
know,
add? Or should we go
yes,
silent?
like you have to be there for your loved ones. And even, most of the time you could recognize how someone is feeling and just you have to stay calm. So the person like you was having an anxiety attack, you got to come in and be that calm for that person so they can relax and start calming their self down, you
Yeah.
know.
No, you're
So
being the
some
rock.
people, yeah, some people just want to be like, just shake them and say, stop, just stop. But it's not, it doesn't work like that, you know. It works like you got to be their friend. You got to be there to listen to them and know what they are going to need, you
Right.
know.
Oh,
So,
great answer. Thank you.
and we're very blessed to have each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right,
Connie.
I'll wrap it up. I can say that it's very important for, that person that's going through it or the people around them, to advocate, because you don't know what's out there. There's a lot of different modalities, holistic type of, you know, treatments or something that you can fit in your daily schedule that can help you, dealing with those, tough moments or, the tough times that, going through in your head. Another thing that's important is, obviously knowing CPR, because that's the first thing, that it's going to help save somebody, that's going through a cardiac arrest or, any emergency situation, is to, keep grounded. you know you're almost in tunnel vision, and then the people around you is supporting you and is basically, talking to the EMS or 911 or the police to kind of pull everything together. But I can say that's probably all I got to add.
Thanks, Tyler.
Okay. So thank you so much for sharing your story and your heart with us today. These conversations are not easy, but they are so important and they truly make a difference for people who may be walking a similar path. To anyone listening, whether you are a survivor, a loved one, or someone just trying to understand, you are not alone and your experience matters. If this episode resonated with you, feel free to share it with somebody who might need it. And as always, take care of your mind, your body, and your heart. If you or someone you know is interested in being on the podcast, please email us at scasmha@gmail.com. Bye.
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 See you later.